how can Verizon or AT&T or anyone say that they're unlimited when of course they're limited? It's one thing to say, well, you're unlimited in the sense that the only so much data can be carried down the pipe. That's fine. I don't mind that I'm competing with other people for use of the pipe. I get that. What I don't want is Verizon arbitrarily saying, well, to keep the pipes free, we're just automatically going to throttle you when you reach a certain point. So, out of this week's news is that Verizon has throttled a fire department's data plan, and it wasn't just a mere accident. They were notified, Verizon was notified by the fire department that they needed their data plan not throttled, and Verizon instead took advantage of the situation and throttled them. But I wanted to have a discussion about this article and about the thing that happened. That they're in the middle of fighting the California wildfires. They're using their phones to communicate as much as they can, I imagine. And it turns out that they are getting reduced to 1/200th of the previous speed. If you're not familiar with this, if you're either out of the country or you don't have one of these unlimited plans, Brandon and I do this. Brandon and I are on the same plan. We have the AT&T unlimited plan, and we get something like 23 gigabytes, I think it's each, for the month. And it might not even be each. Once we go through the 23 gigabytes, then we get throttled down to 300 kilobytes per second. I think it's bytes, not bits. Now, 300 kilobytes per second is still pretty good for doing most things on your phone, but it's not really gonna, it doesn't feel unlimited, does it? So now I understand things have to have limits. You're not, you'd be preaching to the choir to tell me that, well, if we made it truly unlimited, then people would. Yes, I get that. However, we don't use words like unlimited to mean limited. If the word, if the meaning of the thing that you're doing has limitations, then you can't say unlimited. I am an attorney, and I understand that I am held to a higher standard of ethics. But if I tell you that I have a law office, and I do not, or if I tell you that I have law offices, and I do not, that is a violation, and I can be reprimanded, and further action can be taken if I don't correct the misrepresentation, just for saying that I have a law office, when I'm really just a lawyer that has a home office and practices out of his home. So I have to tell clients that. You can find various ways to phrase it that aren't misleading, but you can't say, yes, I'm the law office of Leonard French. No. That's why I am the law firm of Leonard French, because firm does not imply that I have an office. So how can Verizon or AT&T or anyone say that they're unlimited when of course they're limited? It's one thing to say, well, you're unlimited in the sense that the only so much data can be carried down the pipe. That's fine. I don't mind that I'm competing with other people for use of the pipe. I get that. What I don't want is Verizon arbitrarily saying, well, to keep the pipes free, we're just automatically going to throttle you when you reach a certain point. Not even we're going to automatically make you eligible for throttling when necessary. It's just we're going to automatically throttle you. So they did this to the fire department in Santa Clara. And the fire department has received Verizon's response that this has nothing to do with net neutrality and was just a customer service error. And they said no, quite the opposite. It has everything to do with net neutrality. Yeah, same thing. They get throttled to 200 kilobits per second, which is not. Remember, there's an 8 times multiplier here. These are two different units. 200 to 600 kilobits is not the same as 25 gigabytes. Those are two different units. A byte is 8 times larger, or contains 8 bits, should I say. So a 25 gigabyte limit would actually be a 200 gigabit limit. So a 200 kilobit limit is actually 25 kilobytes per second. That's not enough to do anything on. And I'm not upset that my YouTube connection that I don't need might get throttled at some point. I am a little bit concerned that my upload might get throttled if I'm streaming a lot or something. That would be unfortunate because I feel like I'm paying a lot of money for the connection that I have. But so far, we really haven't had too many throttling issues on my phone because I only use a couple of gigabytes a month. But these guys obviously need to use a lot of data. And it's one thing. It's fully okay if they were on the wrong plan and they really need to be on a different plan. But they were on something called an unlimited plan, which, again, you can't misrepresent the word unlimited. There is no reason that no single reasonable person out there would say that unlimited means limited. And just to take it like one specificity, one step of particularity further, no one would say that unlimited means arbitrarily limited. That's, I think, worse to me. It's one thing to say that my car has unlimited passenger capacity. Like, we're going to lease you this car. We don't limit the number of passengers you can put in the car. But the car has like a physical limit. And the law has like a physical limit or something, right?
I don't know. If you're into being a clown, the family car can hold quite a few people. So
So just get a Volkswagen Bug and you can fit 17 people in it. But you get what I'm saying. Like VW doesn't put a limit on how many people you can put in the car. That's what Verizon is saying here. Verizon is saying that our pipe can only hold so much data, so we have to just arbitrarily throttle people instead of implementing a system where it balances the load for everybody who's trying to use the thing at the time. We have to say that people who use only a little bit of data are prioritized over people who use more than 23 gigabytes of data.
I mean, VW says, hey, if you're a Russian clown posse and you can fit 57 people in our bug, that's fine. Like, good, more power to you.
Yeah, it's usually not, nowadays, it's usually not the line that is so expensive so much as just the synchronous service or the service level agreement. For anyone who's not IT trained, I get to talk about my IT degree a little bit. Their commercial internet is sold with agreements for service levels. So if you need 50 megabits down, 50 megabits up, that might sound like a slow connection, but when you have all of it available to you all the time, it actually is much faster than it sounds. You feel like you're getting your full pipe when you're on a consumer data connection, but it's a little bit faster when it's a dedicated line and a synchronous connection. So it's also very nice to have dedicated upload speeds. If we wanted to do a higher quality feed to YouTube or whatever, I don't pay for it, but if we paid for it, using existing technology, they could just flip a switch over at RCN and give me higher upload speeds that I would have to pay for. That's what we pay for today, our service level agreements and synchronous service. And that's all generally considered commercial services.
Bad Chad says that you're confusing things a little bit. He's saying that 25 gigabytes is how much water you can have in the bottle, and 2,000 kilobytes is how fast you can pour it out or fill it in. They are not saying that our bottle is infinite because we have an infinite amount of water we can pour in. They are saying that we can pour in water at a fixed rate to an infinite degree. They are saying that the capacity of the bottle is infinite, and that's not true. Basically, we have a bottle, and it's 25 gigabytes, and we can fill it in using a fixed straw. Once that bottle fills up, they take that bottle away, they give us a different bottle, and they make us use a thinner straw. That's the analogy. And
Okay.
that bottle is infinite. We have a really thin straw.
Yeah, so if in my world, and I'm going to have a slightly hard time articulating this because I'm not an economist, but in my world, the incentive would be for Verizon and AT&T and all that to compete on quality of their connection, coverage, and speed of their connection and all that. And we wouldn't play games with with throttling individual services or throttling individual connections at certain points and all that, so that every user gets the maximum experience. And if it turns out that T-Mobile doesn't pay for enough pipes or enough straws or a big enough straw or whatever, that will become immediately obvious that they're not the fastest network. Instead, because of because throttling is more or less explicitly allowed, but implicitly allowed at this point for sure. Because of that, they play games, and T-Mobile will say they have the fastest because they've probably programmatically programmed a burst into the first whatever 500 kilobytes or whatever megabyte, so that you get it very quickly, and then they immediately throttle it back down to a slower speed. How do I know this? I had T-Mobile for 2 years, and I noticed that they were not as fast as they claimed to be on television, in my opinion. I'm not trying to defame anyone. I'm just stating an opinion. But my humble engineering opinion was that my T-Mobile connection was not nearly as fast as my AT&T connection, despite T-Mobile's claims of being the fastest network. And then, although I haven't had any terrible throttling problems with AT&T, because again, I really haven't used my phone for that much. Now that I have a Note 9, I'm probably, going to get my money's worth. We're going to use the heck out of it. And maybe we'll find out what happens. I know Brandon used all of our data 1 month and we got throttled, but I didn't notice any change.
Well, yeah, so we actually have a really good plan for 2 people, because we have the family unlimited plan, which means that between the 2 of us get 23 gigabytes.
Okay.
Yeah, between the 2 of us we get 23 gigabytes. Now, if there were 4 lines on this account, they would still get 23 gigabytes. So if there were 4 people using the account, that might be a bit more of a problem.
Yeah, and I guess the deal is that the overall cost would be less than having 4 unlimited lines separate.
Right. And the month that I used all the data was the month that I didn't have internet at my house. So
which is why I got you a phone and a data plan to begin with.
Yes. So we did go through all of our data, but yeah, I didn't notice any huge drop off either. It was sort of working for me after we ran out, and we were only out for about a day and a half or 2 days, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But that was the only time that I've seen in the last year that we've gone over. So
it seems like maybe there should be like a corporate plan for those firefighters, though, so that they don't have to come across this, because the human side to this is that there was an emergency in which people's lives and health and, in terms of, I don't know if there were like houses at risk. So the possessions were at risk as well, and they couldn't do their job effectively, or as effective as they could. It just should have been something foreseeable, at least. Maybe there's a corporate plan that they could get that would be able to avoid this issue.
Yeah, but the other issue then is that the fire department is not the only one that needs to be able to rely on their phone. Just maybe it's not as much of an emergency as a raging fire, but still being able to use your phone to reach even your friends and family, and even if it's not an emergency, but let's say that you have to reach them, you need to be able to count on that if the connection is available, the call will go through. Does anybody remember the James Earl Jones commercials? The call goes through. It was. Can we go back to those days where it's important that the connection is solid, and it's not. Where net neutrality has nothing to do with AT&T being required to maintain a certain size of pipe or anything. We just want them to compete on the merits, not playing games with each individual's experience to the point that we can't rely on it. If I couldn't rely on my electricity, I already pay a slightly higher rate during the day and a slightly lower rate at night because I mess around with my plan like that. But that's what I've chosen to do. But what if that was the requirement, and no matter where you went, you could only get an electricity plan where they would turn off your electricity when somebody who paid more needed it, or they would reduce the amount of electricity available to you when somebody who paid more needed it. Not you can have all the electricity you need as long as you pay for it, but rather somebody can pay more to get priority over you. I don't like that with water or power or roads. Those things are meant to be equal access, or beaches. Those things are meant to be equal access. They are not the exclusive property of people who can pay the maximum amount of money. That's an economic principle. That's a free market principle. And we must recognize that free market principles and all that do not solve democracy problems. Democracy can be used to solve free market problems. In my opinion, that's my opinion. We can disagree on that, but that's my economic opinion.
Ewan wants me to mention that Ajit Pai spoke about ditching net neutrality being a boon to emergency services because we'd be able to prioritize them.
Yeah, for a price. Yeah, they had to pay double the price.
Is the fire service well funded? Like, do they have a lot of money to?
Not everywhere. A lot of us here in Pennsylvania, our fire departments are publicly funded. Are like funded by donations and like grants from the state. Like,
yeah.
They aren't funded with like a continuous budget of, oh, by the way, we need another $200 a month for our cell phone plans, or another $2,000 a month for our cell phone plans. That doesn't happen instantly with state appropriations.
But I don't think in this case it was a question of not having enough money. I think it was a question of they were in the middle of fighting a fire and all of a sudden they were being throttled and they had no idea why. So
yeah.
Like, it wasn't even that they were given the option to upgrade their plan. It was that like it just happened. It just happened in the middle of a very important situation.
And I really hope that the person who received that email or phone call was doing everything they could to run that priority message up the chain of command. And I hope that that the mistake was made by some true moron. Because if this was an actual enforced policy and everyone's like, yep, this is fine, that's evil. That's just actual evil in my humble opinion. I mean, really, if we were all standing around watching someone's house burn down, and if the fire truck drove up and started putting it out and everything, and we're all standing around, and a firefighter walks up to you and goes, "If you could just hold this, we'll save 3 lives." Verizon said, "Hang on a second, you got to pay us first." Instead of doing the thing and then figuring it out later. Do you get me? Anyone who has ever worked in emergency services knows what I'm talking about. You just do it. You don't wait. You just do the thing to help in the emergency, and you sort out the rest later. That's what makes this smack of evil to me, and not a mistake.
Yeah, I'm sure if Verizon had just billed them later, like sent them an invoice, I'm sure everything would have been fine.
I mean, we could still have the conversation about net neutrality, but like this could potentially have the effect of delaying someone's rescue or delaying someone's property from being saved, or putting a firefighter in danger, or just limiting what they can do. Like maybe they just aren't willing to do certain things because they don't have a reliable communication system. If you get stuck someplace and you can't call for help, don't go there. If you can't go there with a way to call for help, don't do that unless you really know what you're doing. You have a plan. And fires, there's a reason I'm not a firefighter. I want to live. And they have all my respect. All of it. Absolutely. This was nuts on Verizon's part. And I was thinking about switching to Verizon when I bought the Note 9. Glad I didn't. Not that AT&T's, any better, but at least I didn't hear about this with AT&T yet. All right, everybody, that's our show. Thank you very much for joining me. I am Leonard French, your copyright attorney. Yeah. Wow. I am not your copyright attorney. I'm your favorite copyright attorney. That's the first time I messed that up. Let's do that again.
Leonard is not your copyright attorney, everybody.
I am Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. And of course, with me in the studio is none other than Kurt Mueller, your favorite patent attorney. Say hi, Kurt, or bye, Kurt.
Hi, everyone. Also not your patent attorney, although I'm glad you love me.
This is a community-supported channel. Thank you for pledging your monthly support on patreon.com/ljfrench. A big thank you to the following supporters. At the $50 level, thank you to Jonathon Doe, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Andy, Kyle Mudrak, John H. Andersen, Verement, Tayne, Sean McNamara, William Gonzalez, Michael Pearce, Terry Chris, Grunkle Tia Marie, and Michael Jones. Thank you very much for your support at the $50 level. And thank you to the $5 plus supporters who are scrolling on the LED panel behind me, and I'll make room for you on the crawl of the videos that we drop. The only other thing I wanted to close with was John McCain's wishes. When asked, he says that he'd like to be remembered as he served his country, not always right, made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of errors, but served his country, and I would hope we could add honorably. And I think he got it. I think he was a very honorable man. So, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the videos that drop this week. I hope you have a great week. And anyone else have any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Love you all. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. See you later. Bye. Hey, before we go out, come here. Come here. We'll take dog. Say hi. Good boy. Good boy. Say hi to dog. This is dog. Will you say hi to dog? Yes, we do. Good boy. Good boy. You're so good. Yes, you are. All right. Say goodbye. Say goodbye to everyone with your ear. Say goodbye. Oh, is it National Dog Day? Every day is National Dog Day. With this dog especially.